Psalm 39:13 says, "Look away from me." He's talking to God. "Look away from me, that I might enjoy life again." That's very interesting. Look away from me, that I might enjoy life again. He refers to God through this psalm as his scourge, as the one that is bringing heaviness on him, that it is God that is set against him. In a very interesting verse, in verse 11, Psalm 39:11, he talks about when God rebukes someone in their sin, that their wealth is eaten, destroyed, as by a moth. So there's this link between God's discipline towards us and the dissipation of our wealth. I think of Psalm 90:17 as well. How these people feared God for provision. Psalm 90:17, a prayer and a blessing. Establish the work of our hands, O God. Establish the work of our hands. You know, I have known in my life that those seasons, and God changes the times and seasons. Daniel 2:21, God changes the times and seasons. And the heart of a king is a stream of water in his hands. Proverbs 21:1. He can turn it any which way. You know, I've experienced times and seasons when the work of my hands is not established, when my heart is angry with God and in a place of sin and running, and it's felt as if life is like sand through my fingers. I just can't, nothing sticks. It's horrible. It's a horrible feeling. And here the psalmist, verse 11, Psalm 39:11, does correlate God's discipline with a consuming of our wealth. Now, not always, of course not. There's no, hence prosperity doctrines are lost. You know, Mark 10:29-30, God speaks of those giving up those possessions we have, relationships and as it were, worldly prosperity. God talks of those of us giving those up for him and the gospel, receiving 100 times as much people and houses, because you do, through the family and the people of God, as you sacrifice to be primarily a child of Christ, will you receive the inheritance of the people of Christ. And there are more homes open to you. There are more brothers than your own physical brothers. And yet then he adds to it, he says, you will receive 100 times as much with persecutions. So, you know, God, the idea of prosperity and following Jesus is a deep thing. It's not always about dollars and cents or an easy road. But here I find it interesting in Psalm 39:11, there is a correlation and there is a time and place for everything where, and I've known it in my life, where my prosperity is damned, so to speak, until I get right with God. But the other thing to note in this, I just think is interesting, is that, you know, honestly, to do life, we need the blessing of God. Ecclesiastes 3:13 speaks of the capacity, and I think that's a huge thing about heaven. And one of the big differentiators between earth and heaven will be our capacity to really see. Matthew 6:23, that the eyes are the lamp of the body, and when the eyes are good, there's a capacity in our soul that will be different and redeemed when we're in heaven. But that's also here. So Ecclesiastes 3:13 speaks of man being able to eat and drink and enjoy the fruit of his labor. And it says this too is a gift from God. To the capacity to be in the present, to be here on earth and enjoy earth on God's terms is a God thing. We can't even pull that off automatically. If we try to do life ourselves in our own capacities, our own spirit, it's like chasing the end of a rainbow. You won't find it. But he who pursues righteousness and love, Proverbs 21:1, will find life, prosperity, and honor. we seek God, and in seeking God, in the wake of that, through the blood and the redemption and the promises and the protection of Jesus Christ, we can do life. We can eat and drink and enjoy the fruit of our labor. We can do life here, and we can do life there, and we can be kept in perfect peace, Isaiah 26:3. It's God. God's hand on us can be such that we're rendered incompetent to even feel and enjoy this life. So the psalmist says, verse 39:13, take your hand off me so that I can enjoy this life. And then in another sense, we're seeking God's hand on us to enjoy this life. But from him and through him and to him are all things. Romans 11:33-36. God is amazing. His spirit is higher than our minds. Isaiah 55:9. As high as the heavens are above the earth, so high are God's ways above our ways. In him, in and through his spirit, we see light. In your light, Psalm 36:9, we see light. It's in and through God we see the truths of God. And that's why we take captive thoughts and make them subject to him. 2 Corinthians 10:3-5. We don't take captive God and try and make him subject to our understanding, or we limit him into something he's made. Got to get back to work. God bless you.